MatPat was the beloved host of multiple channels from April 18th, 2011 until March 9th, 2024. MatPat was many things: a father, a husband, comedian, and most importantly, a reacher.
You need to leave!
Before this whole part of my speech, I need something. Hey, do you guys have a projector or something? No? That's alright, I brought my own.
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair. The Bluetooth device is connected successfully.
I have been watching MatPat for years, since I was a little goo goo gaga. And watching his videos, I'd agreed with a lot of his theories. The Willy Wonka video, his Matrix video about Neo not being the one, his Joker video about him being the hero of Gotham, and everybody's favorite, most of the FNAF videos. But we all know how famous he is for his reaches in his theories. We could talk about all of these, but one you don't want me to even begin with is his Gravity Falls theories. Wait guys, I was just about to talk about the Gravity Falls thing. Thank you. Theory 1, Rick and Morty theory.
Hey, what are you doing?
In this first theory, he starts with this classic very long opening skits, like he always does. Oh wait, this is gonna take a while. Let me just... There we go. Now we won't have to be here until Monday. Heyo! This whole theory is about how Rick and Morty is a sequel to Gravity Falls.
You heard that right. Rick and Morty is the unofficial Season 3 of Gravity Falls, a story directly connected to and happening around and after Weirdmageddon.
Like, he may prove that they are connected from Easter eggs, but that's like saying, now you see this owl house, he's actually a sequel to Gravity Falls. Like, no, it's just slice similarities and Easter eggs.
Through one of those portals flies a pen, a notebook, and a coffee cup with a question mark on it.
I've always known about a lot of the top 100 Gravity Falls Easter eggs you missed, but MatPat does it to a point where I can feel him changing my mind. Like, I was sitting there like, damn, I'm being manipulated right now, and I didn't even know.
The exact 3 items that we see fly through Rick's portal.
I always thought it was stupid that Bill's portal goes to a portal Rick just opened, so I have a theory that they don't just connect, but the items were left floating in Bill's dimension and then eventually ended up through Rick's portal. Meaning that it could have been floating there for much longer than instantly being connected. When I thought of that addition, it made everything seem much better, and more importantly, part of the same universe. Because if these shows are connected, the portal having that stuff makes no sense if they're supposed to be the same portal, because that was not Bill Cipher's dimension. Rick was hopping around and putting portals all willy-nilly. And all of you should know that this cartoon theory, trademark pending, helps me sleep at night. The one point that really makes me nod my head was when old MatPat started talking about the books.
He becomes an outlaw across multiple different dimensions. He even shows us a copy of his wanted poster in the journal. But here's the thing. In the corner of that wanted poster is another code from Bill Cipher. A code that, when translated, says, Rick was here. Wait, what?
The whole wanted poster part is really interesting because it says the name Rick while talking about how he traveled through dimensions and befriending outlaws, which is exactly like Rick and his gang, including Bird Person.
What wubba lubba dub dub means?
That's just Rick's stupid nonsense catchphrase.
It's not nonsense at all. In my people's tongue.
Also, the fact Bill knows who Rick Sanchez is the funniest idea of this theory. At this point, I was totally kicking my feet up and twirling my little pigtail around. But then he talked about the hidden figures in the Weirdified Theory of Weirdness page. And at first I was like, oh yeah, that is a fucking plumbus. And yeah, these freaks are the freaky aliens. It even made me get my copy and look at it again, and sure enough, they were there. But as I kept looking, I began to read the pages. You know, like you do. And I realized something. This all canonically was written prior to making the portal. This is literally right after he discovers multiple types of ghosts while staying at Wendy's dad's cabin, after 6 years and 3 journals, which is on that weirdness page right before Bill proposes the idea of the portal. Though around that time, Bill was called my muse, in homage to Stan's favorite band, Eurythmics. Oh, and also this page has Miss Pac-Man, a flying monkey, and Freddy freaking Freaker, according to my wife. So who knows what he was smoking? But either way, Matthew, that is just Cthulhu.
There's also the giant silhouette of Cthulhu, and not just any Cthulhu, but one that looks oddly similar to the one appearing in the opening sequence of every episode of Rick and Morty.
I refuse to think it's specifically the one from Rick and Morty, because it looks much more like a generic Cthulhu than one from Rick and or Morty. Oddly similar in my ass.
You need to leave!
No, you need to leave.
Bill is still leaving threatening notes in the background, meaning that he too survived and is probably eager to have his revenge. Holy poopy butthole, Rick and Morty fans, that would be why he was being analyzed in Nuptia 4. It also means that there's a very real, very canon possibility of Rick and Ford crossing paths again, joining up one last time to fight the returning threat of Bill Cipher.
Holy poopy butthole, Rick and Morty fans. I mean, it would be cool if Bill returned and Rick gets his whole team back together to defeat him, but like, that's just not gonna happen. Just by the fact that one's Adult Swim and the other is Disney. Star-crossed lovers, I know. The only reason The Simpsons literally just had Bill in there is because of Disney. So MatPat being like, it'll happen, is not only wrong by the fact we see how Rick and Morty has gone since then, but also because of plain old trademarks, licensing, and copyright. No Jimmy Timber Power Hour for these powerhouses of animation. The closest thing we can get is the Mabel and Dipper background Mortys. I don't believe there is / will be a multiverse line where an episode of Rick and Morty has Rick Sanchez for real meet Stanford Pines. I would love it if I was wrong though, but the fact that this video is going so hard into "it's real guys, my dad works for Bill" is kind of ridiculous. He does say that's not going to happen at the very end of this video, but I want to get little Timmy's hopes up and then be like, lol, I'm JK right now, lol. Like bro, I was so ready to watch the episode with my sick ass hospice Morty Funko Pop. Theory 2, Bill Alive, Grunkle Stan theory. His second theory has a long-ass 2-minute intro that is mainly spent on setting up the video by recapping the finale, where he starts talking about Grunkle Stan losing his memories.
And losing all memories of the loved ones he left behind. For about 3 minutes. Yeah, it's not all that much of a sacrifice as it turns out, as Stan's memories come back in less time than it takes to mix up a blender full of Mabel juice.
I always thought the fact that Stan gets his memory back to just be kinda bad. Like, it's good that the ending's plain happy, besides the fact that Dipper and Mabel have to go to school now instead of going on adventures to solve the mysteries of the universe multiverse. But I think that really made the show's impact of that scene not worthwhile. Like, he didn't have his memories for like 26 seconds. Come on, people. This also has the viewer question exactly what Mr. Pat Mad is saying. Why doesn't Bill come back though?
Invoke the ancient power that I may return. But what's all this about an axolotl?
The whole axolotl thing Bill says is a bit annoying. He says in reverse language that he'll be back, which leads fans to believe that it's Stan he's coming back through, then the Cipher Hunt statue, and now the recently released Book of Bill, just because of him saying will return. But I think we all know that he would only really return if a new Gravity Falls episode or something like that comes out. Because anytime anything comes out that is the return of Bill, it gets debated because it's not a satisfying miniseries. Like, unless Wendigoon makes a 30-hour video explaining the plot of the Book of Bill, people aren't going to agree that that's the actual return of Bill or an ending for Gravity Falls.
That there was a real-life Bill Cipher statue hidden somewhere in the US, a worldwide treasure hunt. It appeared to be led by Grunkle Stan. It's in reverse. It's worth noting that every time a character has ever spoken in reverse, it was because of Bill. All objects found throughout this treasure hunt tended to be related to either Bill or Grunkle Stan. It's almost as if the creators were hinting towards a connection between Bill and Stan.
The point that Stan is possessed by Bill during the Cipher statue hunt is a good one. Mr. Pat uses evidence of reverse dialogue and insistence upon shaking Bill's hand.
Shortly after, he recommends that you shake the statue's hand.
Shake his hand, that's kind of like a prize.
And the fact that Stan is making a scavenger hunt being something Stan wouldn't usually do. And the fact he's the only character to give clues means that he actually is the only one doing it. So either he's thinking of some long-term con, or Bill was possessing him. Or the more likely option, Alex Hirsch really likes doing the Grunkle Stan voice and literally does it all the time. So he wanted to do a funny voice, and any other character other than McGucket or Seuss he couldn't do because he has to get actors for it. And those two characters would make even less sense to start a scavenger hunt. Except for Seuss. He's kind of suspicious. But the fact it was only Bill and Stan iconography and items makes this theory 100% more believable. Along with the talking reverse, because nobody does that in the show unless they're in contact with Bill, like Gideon and McGucket. Also, what the fuck did McGucket see through the portal? Bill twerking his big bubbly triangle butt. Actually, cool update. In the journal it says in code that one peek into my dimension and this bumpkin lost his weak little mind. All he saw was me removing my exoskeleton to feed. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen, Jack. So I finally know what the heck Filford saw in there. I like the jiggly butt theory more.
Eventually, the fans found the Bill Cipher statue, and beside it was a chest. In the chest, there was a USB drive of Grunkle Stan singing We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn.
I don't know why I never thought about how that could mean that they're connected, but I also thought that this was just a random thing Alex released around the time of the Cipher hunt, not part of the main prize. But Matt's argument falls apart a bit when he talks about Grunkle Stan claiming it's his statue.
Stan goes on to congratulate you on finding his statue. A very interesting choice of words, to be sure.
What the actual quote is, "Congrats on finding my mysterious treasure of the statue in the forest." He's saying that the treasure is his, not the statue. My mysterious treasure. But if Bill did possess him, it could literally be him saying that he owns it. Since I guess it would be Stan's by that point. Like, the only other person that claim it is theirs is Bill. But like, he's gone? Unless Bill is Grunkle Stan. Or it'll be Seuss, since you know, he owns and runs the shack now. Seuss is a little suspicious though.
Shake his hand, that's kind of like a prize.
Why would he be encouraging us to shake Bill Cipher's hand? Unless, of course, this isn't Stanley talking.
Also, Grunkle Stan knows you need to shake Bill's hand for it to do something, so yeah, it's 100% Bill Cipher. But who would be Bill now? My attorney? My therapist? The only one who knew it was there at this point was Alex Hirsch.
We already know that Bill can mimic someone else's voice when he's in their body, but then why in the finale aren't his eyes yellow? Well, it's because Bill only controls Stan when he sleeps.
But the Bill possessing while Stan is asleep edition really sells this more. It solves why, when his memory comes back, Stan wouldn't know that Bill is actually back. So maybe Bill is playing the long game to never get noticed. Which will be real difficult since Great Uncle Ford and him are literally sailing around the world together, which also isn't mentioned in this guy's video at all. Wait, when the fuck is the Cipher hunt supposed to canonically happen? Or even the journals for that matter. I guess just like Shermy Pines, the showrunners literally have no clue how the timeline really works, but that's okay because it really cares anyways. The in theory actually kind of sucks though. Well, let me do it like... The in theory actually kind of sucks though. Because Matt at the last second throws out the idea that Grunkle Stan has been possessed the whole time?
So, there you have it. A theory on Bill Cipher being alive and trapped inside Stanley's mind. While I was researching this theory, it struck me. It's pretty crazy how close these two characters are with each other. It's almost as if they've been connected on a deeper level since the very beginning.
Like, does that make any sense at all? The reason Bill was defeated was because of Stan getting his mind erased. But I guess that was when Grunkle Stan was awake. How come at no point Bill would use the fact he possessed Grunkle Stan to be able to take over the world, or find out where the last survivors are and where to get in, or, I don't know, try to do literally anything during his time on the show to better his case, to better his cause? All we could say is the time Stan went against Vord, but that was when he was awake.
We've already established how backwards talk tends to relate to Bill, and now we have someone speaking backwards telling us not to trust Grunkle Stan?
Like, I love this idea, but there's just no other evidence other than this.
Stan is not what he seems. What if it was referring to something else the entire time? Could it really be possible that these two characters are actually one and the same? Huh. Guess that's a theory for another day. In the meantime, remember, reality isn't real, the universe is a hologram, and that's just a theory.
Which is why MatPat ends the video very fast after this, which is something Matt does sometimes. He kind of just throws theory after theory at you, even though they don't work or go together as a complete theory. Then it just kind of ends with his weirdest statement: since it's the end of the video, who cares? What do you know? It's the end of the video, it's just a theory, doesn't matter, bye gold, bye! Theory 3. Bill alive. Alex Hirsch. My first time seeing his newest Gravity Falls video was for this funeral. It's also very cute that Matthew Patrick's son got into Gravity Falls.
Why am I talking about it now, 8 years after the show ended? Well, it's Ollie's current favorite show right now.
Like, this whole trilogy of theories began with Matt and Mrs. Pat getting into the show. And now his little goo goo gaga is enjoying the show, which is really cool and wholesome. Smiley face.
It is without question my single favorite animated series of all time. And honestly, it was the pioneer in getting a fan base to start theorizing about your show.
I love that both Gravity Falls and FNAF straight up just changed the way people do videos on YouTube. And that, and also MatPat basically founding the theory-making YouTube genre. These three titans of industry all made YouTube such a cool and interesting place. So many YouTubers have been inspired by these things, and they, in turn, inspire more and more and more. I wouldn't have made this channel or even this video without Gravity Falls, FNAF, and of course, MatPat. Thank you so much for everything, Matthew Patrick, leader of game, film, food, and style, founder of the YouTube Theorist community. Thank you so much for playing Maya Gamer.
You see, my friends, the Blacklight edition of Journal 3 sent me down a rabbit hole that led me to only one conclusion. Alex Hirsch, creator of Gravity Falls, he is Bill Cipher. Or rather, he's possessed by Bill Cipher in the real world, just like what we saw happen with characters in the series. And not only is he possessed, Alex is aware of that possession and is actively fighting against Bill's influence in a way that you would never expect.
Okay, I don't know if you noticed just from the title of this video, but this is yet another Bill Cipher is alive theory. His trilogy of Gravity Falls series each has Bill Cipher being alive, or has a he's gonna return part. And I say part because only the first one really has only a part. The latter two are just the same video but using slightly different evidence. Why doesn't he use the same and much better evidence of Bill Cipher possessing people in their sleep from the last video?
Page 142, quote again, "I fell asleep on my cot only to awake sitting at my desk staring at the strange symbols inscribed below. He is taking advantage while I sleep." End quote. This tells us that it is very possible Bill is only controlling Stan at night.
The new one is so much less good. That is strange to use.
Subtly explains exactly how he's writing in this book. He says, quote, "Six fingers just conked out, and that means Captain Bill is steering the ship." And later again, Sixer's about to wake up, which means that Bill is able to puppeteer Ford's body while he's asleep. So what if he were actually able to do that with Alex Hirsch out here in the real world?
MatPat picks another letter E and says that it's exactly Bill's handwriting, but it's literally just an E.
It is exactly the same.
He uses evidence like Bill likely possessed Alex Hirsch to write both the Book of Bill, some AMA posts, and the author blurb at the beginning of the Blacklight edition of Journal 3. He uses the fact that Bill wants to be outside of his basic reality. Bill is in other shows.
He's making a deal with the all-powerful Axolotl to be able to come back in some other dimension. And we know that he's likely popping around other universes now, since he's visible in other franchises like Rick and Morty, Big City Greens, The Owl House, DuckTales, even The Simpsons.
Buy crypto, suckers!
And the Bill statue being in our world, all to say that Bill Cipher could possess Alex Hirsch in real life IRL. All of this is very much a reacher of a theory, unless you consider it an ARG meta-narrative. And within that, MatPat is indeed correct. All of the material released after the show, such as books and the Cipher Hunt, can all be seen as this meta-narrative ARG that Alex Hirsch, the real guy, not the meta one, is trying to tell. This is definitely the meta-narrative intended for the audience to read into. There's the text of the show, where Bill Cipher may come back into Sam's mind. There's the multiverse concept, where Bill may come back in another dimension, such as Rick and Morty. And then there's the ARG, where Alex Hirsch is possessed by Bill to make more Gravity Falls content other than the show. This is all fine and good. But then MatPat continues to say how Alex Hirsch knows that Bill is in his mind, that Alex Hirsch, the real guy, is trying to defeat him in real life.
The reason we haven't all been doomed by a new pyramid-shaped overlord taking over our sad reality, just like Dipper, Ford, and Stan, Alex Hirsch ain't letting Bill win without a fight. In fact, he's doing his best to banish Bill forever. And not using a memory gun. No, he's using his own career.
He never gets into how Alex Hirsch knows that Bill is in his head. Instead says that Alex is trying to create the Cipher Zodiac Wheel with his career of projects.
Watching the series, this thing was everywhere. It is teased in literally every episode.
One of these pieces of evidence he uses for this Cipher Wheel of Projects theory is the Zodiac never being used.
By the end of the series, they've set this thing up as a prophecy explaining the one true way to banish Bill Cipher once and for all. And yet in the end, this Zodiac, it doesnn't pay off. After all the buildup and the teases, the Zodiac doesn't actually work because Ford and Stan refuse to hold hands. Basically, Alex Hirsch creates this huge thing, sets up this massive Chekhov's gun, and it never gets used.
The reason it was never used is because that'd be boring. The story reason is that Grunkle Stan doesn't hold everyone else's hand because it won't work, even though these MFers are literally glowing with blue energy. And then the writer's reason for this not happening is because that'd be boring. They stand in a circle and Bill dies, who cares? Bill destroys it and Grunkle Stan sacrifices himself. Whoa, what an impactful ending, am I right? Just because they used it as a misdirect doesn't mean they didn't use it in its most effective way of storytelling. And that also doesn't mean that Alex Hirsch has been using this over his career to defeat Bill Cipher. Like, what?
This Zodiac just wound up being a massive misdirect. Now though, I think I finally understand. While I was putting together this episode, I began to realize more and more that these symbols looked familiar. Not because they were in Gravity Falls, but because they correspond with other projects that Alex Hirsch has worked on over the years.
And then he uses different evidence of different projects Alex has worked on to fill the Cipher Wheel. Not his projects like Gravity Falls, instead shows and movies he's worked on. I could go through each one and saying why each doesn't work well, but it doesn't matter because it's arbitrary in the first place.
The six-fingered handprint, that's obviously referencing Gravity Falls itself, but the shooting star, for instance, well, that lines up perfectly with Kid Cosmic, a show about a kid who gets superpowers from cosmic stones of power crash landing near his house. Hirsch worked as a writer on 2 of the stories for that series.
The pentagram, he says the owl house because it's witchy and he worked on it, but the show literally is made by someone who worked on Gravity Falls. Dipper's tree symbol for amphibia. Because trees? The Flapjack one is literally a single episode, though it's so crazy specific it might be the case.
The glasses? They look a lot like the signature eyewear worn by the Mitchell family in Netflix's Mitchells vs. the Machines, a film where Hirsch was a story consultant and voiced the character of Dirk.
Mitchells and the Machines is a movie. Are all these only for movies or shows? He's made books and other projects that could be forced into there. And by only the 7th symbol does he say that the symbols don't need to be literal and shows the clip.
It's likely that many of these are symbols that are going to be coming down the pipeline for Alex, but then again, remember what they said in the show.
The symbols needn't all be literal, Dipper.
So with that in mind...
But how are the other ones not that literal as well? Like for the star symbol show, it's like, well, duh, it's a star. But Amphibia's main thing would be, I don't know, frogs? They're in a swamp, sure, but Mitchell's and the Machines be glasses? Because some of them wear glasses? What the fuck are you talking about? Now they'll be less literal. The witchy symbol for the owl house is already a vibe. That symbol never appears in that fucking show once.
It seems fitting for Hirsch's work on the Owl House, a story all about witches and demons.
You know what does appear in the owl house? Dipper's literal hat. Slap that on the wheel. The oyster symbol is a secret society fez about the Royal Order of the Holy Mackerel, a group of Grunkle Stan's dad and other other guys who worship the fish in a tank, not fish hooks.
The oyster symbol here. Hirsch was a key creative in another Disney series called Fish Hooks, a show set inside of a giant fish tank where you'd presumably be able to find similarly shaped shells.
This one is at least closer than Amphibia, but if that's the case, why now did you put that disclaimer that they're a stretch? Ice because ice is in the snow kingdom of Mario? What about the ice in Amphibia? Or the ice in Owl House? What about the Ice King from Adventure Time? Because Alex knew a guy who worked on the show so he had a little input? Put that on the wheel. That'll defeat this Bill Cipher in real life. Because Bill Cipher has been planning this since he first worked on Flapjack. You fucking deceiving bastard. You lied to these people. And you lied to me.
The llama. That one is weird and oddly specific. And again, I haven't found a strong match for it. But I will say that I expect the llama to be representative of the last project on this Alex Hirsch Zodiac.
Llama for Alex Hirsch's next project? To defeat Bill Cipher? What? Even. Uh-oh.
We're in pursuit, we're in pursuit.
I love the idea that before Rick could squanch and Bird Person just hung out, and if Dipper and him ever visit Rick, then Fork could go, Dipper, you know what wubba lubba dub dub means, right? And Dipper goes, it's just one of Rick's weird catchphrases. Well, Dipper, it's actually a very sorrowful message about how much pain and torment he's in. Then it cuts to Rick dancing all happy, but in Dipper's eyes, he sees it all sad, and with sad music build up. I'm sorry, I'm tearing up just thinking about it.